Hi, today we're joined by the great, legendary Breanna Stewart. Breanna, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to talk to me and to speak to all of us. I know you're in Russia right now currently. How is that? What's Russia like? What's going on?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be able to talk with you as well. But I am in Russia right now. I am in a city called Ekaterinburg, so it's east of Moscow. I always have to put my map in my head when I'm thinking about it. And it's pretty cold here for my New Yorkers, my Binghamton people. Today when I walked outside, it was -8. So for it to be March and still -8, it's great. But we're just finishing regular season and we are getting ready to go into playoffs and just finish strong.
Wow, the dedication is real. -8 degrees. You're from Syracuse, an hour away from Binghamton. What was that like for you growing up?
Being from Syracuse, for me, it was, it's a big basketball city. And growing up, I was there when Melo and Coach Boeheim won the national championship. But I remember going to the parade and feeling that type of energy. And, that's one of the reasons. Also, my dad was another reason that really got me involved in basketball. I mean, I'm proud to be from Syracuse, proud to be growing up in the cold, as you've grown up in the cold as well. And it makes me more ready for places like Russia.
Definitely. I want to switch gears a little bit with you and take you back to your college days. Obviously, you committed to play for the Connecticut women's basketball team, perennial powerhouse. I think it's hard to think about UConn and not also think about Gino Auriemma. How do you feel like he was able to push you specifically as a player?
Yeah, so looking back to when I went to UConn, I mean, when I committed, the reason I went to UConn was because I wanted to be pushed to be the best. And that's because of Coach Auriemma and really all those players that he's brought through that program and how they've left and been so much better. So for me, he started pushing me the day I walked on campus. It's like when you're a freshman, and Kai, you know this, and for those that don't and that are going to college, you're a freshman, you walk in, you're like, oh, I know how to work hard. I know how to do these things. And oh, yeah. And then it's like, nope. So he taught me how to work hard, on a whole nother level, how to, get stronger physically, get stronger mentally, and, made it so my hardest days were the days in practice. And then when we had the game, it was time to go and, put it all out on the court and put everything into use. But going to UConn was the best decision I ever made, because I don't know where I would be basketball-wise if I didn't go there. And just really having that hunger and drive and having them help me heighten that and take that as I continue to be a pro is something that, not everybody has.
I think one of the most remarkable statistics about you in your time in college was that in your 4 years, you only lost 5 games. 4 of those came in your freshman year. So I took calc sophomore year, but if the math adds up, you only lost 1 game in 3 years. Being as though you were always one of the top programs in the country, and you were the central focus of a lot of that from the time you stepped on campus, did you ever find the pressure and managing expectations difficult as a 19 and 20-year-old kid?
I did. I definitely had a hard time my freshman year, because like I was saying a little bit earlier, you come in as a freshman and you're not really sure what to expect. I know I'm going to number 1 UConn. I'm going to this powerhouse. I'm going to Coach Auriemma. I'm going to a place where Maya played and Sue and Dee. And it was like, when I started, I was on this great high. And then I had the middle of the season where it was just kind of going downhill. And it was kind of having that moment where it was like, I can't fail. I don't want to fail. and what is failure. And those were things that I had to work through. And not to say what I did before UConn was easy, because it definitely wasn't. Each level has its own hardships, I would say. But, I had to really dig deep and look within and see how I could get better. And as an 18-year-old, there's not a lot of 18-year-olds that are like, okay, how do I fix this situation right now? But continuing to put that pressure on myself, continuing to kind of get in the gym. And I think that's where I learned the mentality. It was like, if things aren't going well for me, then I'm going to make them go well for me. I'm going to force it to kind of go well. And that's going to be in the gym, in the weight room, doing all these extra things. Obviously, my academics have to be, up here as well. But making sure that no one put more pressure on me than myself.
You obviously finished your collegiate career on a strong note. You got your 4th championship, 4th most outstanding player award. And then you go on to be the #1 pick in the WNBA draft to the Seattle Storm. And in your first 2 seasons, you guys struggled a little bit. How did you handle that transition after just leaving a program that had a very strong, long-standing winning culture?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it. I lost 5 games when I was at UConn, and I went to Seattle, and in my rookie year, I think we lost like 19. So I was like, not used to it at all. And I remember, so my first game, I'm kind of going wherever I want with this, but my first game was against LA. So it was against Candace Parker at Staples Center. And I'm like, whoa, I'm going to play against Candace. I'm going to play at Staples. Like, this is going to be great. We're going to win. And we get smoked by 30, like smoked. And it was kind of like, whoa, like, this is the WNBA. And I went into the locker room and I was kind of like, I was upset. I haven't lost this many games in a long time. And it was that would be my sixth loss in 4 years. And my teammates were like, where are we going to go to dinner? And I was like, what? I'm like, dinner? I'm like, we just lost.
Nobody's eating tonight.
Exactly. We're not eating. We're not leaving the room. But it just goes to show that, at the professional level, especially in the WNBA, we have games so frequently and so quickly that the turnaround is so quick. And it's kind of like, all right, you need to put that loss right behind you and focus on the next thing. And, like you said, my first 2 years in the league were definitely a struggle, but it was, I would say, something that we had to go through, something that I had to go through to kind of learn how to win in the WNBA, learn how to win at that level. And now, I mean, looking back and winning my 2nd championship, I'm okay with my first 2 years being a struggle.
And obviously learning how to win wasn't the only adversity you ever faced. You obviously tore your Achilles in 2019. Crippling injury, long recovery period. How did you handle that mentally? And what were some of the things you struggled with? Were there ever concerns that you wouldn't be able to come back the same player?
Yeah. So I ruptured my Achilles, like you said, in April of 2019. I was actually overseas. I was playing for a Russian team. We were in the EuroLeague Final Four in Sopron, Hungary. And, it was one of those moments where I went up for a shot, and I've gone up for a shot thousands of times. And when I went up, something happened. And right then and there, I knew I ruptured my Achilles. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. And, I've heard KD say this before, Kevin Durant, and it's kind of like, when he did his, you see your career flash in front of your eyes. And that's what I had. It was kind of like I was 23 at the time. And it's like, what's next? This is like the worst injury in basketball. How am I supposed to overcome this? All these things going through your mind. So yeah, needless to say, I definitely struggled, and I definitely had, good and bad days. And I always remember when I went to see my physical therapist and when we were like really about to start, he was like, this is going to be a roller coaster of a journey. You're going to have highs and lows, and you're going to, you know, like I said, have good days and bad days. You're going to have things that, you know, you just have to have faith in and trust in the fact that you're going to be able to be back better than what you were. But it was scary, you know, because there was some moments that I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I couldn't walk for 3 months. Like I couldn't even like walk. So I was like, okay, so how am I supposed to be able to run and jump and, you know, play in the WNBA and be an Olympian? But I stuck to the grind and I continued to show up. And I think that's the thing is, you know, we're all given adversity in life, and it's really about the way that you handle it going forward and what you're going to make out of it. And I think that looking back on my injury, I'm really not happy about it still, but I think that it was a blessing in disguise, you know, ability for me to appreciate basketball even more. You know, I don't think I ever took it for granted, but to be able to realize that, you know, I may not know when my last game is going to be, you know, so every time I step on the court, I want to leave everything on the court. And then on the other side of that is I had an opportunity to focus more on off the court things, you know, focusing more on being involved in the other side of basketball and being around my friends and family, because otherwise as a pro, we're playing year round. I go from WNBA to overseas to WNBA, and it just continues to go. So it's definitely a story, and now almost 2 years out from it, I'm happy with where I'm at, and I got a nice scar to kind of remind me of what happened.
You obviously rebounded very well from that injury, come back, you win a championship, another MVP award. And keeping focus with, I guess, last season, which was a very different season. Obviously, you guys move into the bubble format. And aside from just everything going on with the pandemic, you now have conversations about race and Black Lives Matter, social injustice at the forefront of national conversation almost on a daily basis. You are on the WNBA Social Justice Council. How did you perceive your role as an ally surrounding conversations about race in a league that's 80% Black?
I continue to be an ally for the Black community and the Black members of the WNBA and my teammates and friends and things like that, because there's no other place that I should be. You know, I think that you touched on a little bit, but especially this year, especially 2020, when we started that year, we entered the year with a pandemic, and we entered the year with a very heightened focus on racial injustice and the racism that was going on in our country. And I think that, you know, it was something where I remember having these moments where, you know, obviously I'm white, I play for Team USA, and seeing everything going on in our country, it just doesn't make sense. You know, it doesn't make sense that we're in 2020 and we're still fighting for equality based on skin color. And, you know, as members of the WNBA, we always seem to be at the forefront of social justice, whether it was when I was a rookie, before I was in the league, or even now in the bubble. And it was something where basketball and life are intertwined. You know, what we do on and off the court are something that are going to continue to be intertwined, and we're going to continue to use our platforms because there's no other way to do it. You know, we need to continue to reach our communities, and, you know, we don't all have the same communities. So for me, going into this WNBA season, it was more about what we were doing off the court than what we were doing on the court. You know, representing Breanna Taylor, representing Black Lives Matter, continuing to seek justice and amplify the message, and not just have it be this season, you know, 2020 season, have it be something that is continually talked about, because our country's problem, our world's problem with racism is not going away overnight. And it's something that we all need to continue to dedicate ourselves to and continue to learn how to be better.
Yeah, and I think what you guys have done in regards to social justice is incredible in the way that you guys have been so visible on the topic, as well as other topics about social justice, has been great. WNBA seems to always be that trailblazing league, and given that it's only, I think, a year younger than you, it seems like that's just something that has always been on brand with them. How do you hope to see the league grow in your time as a player?
I hope to see the league grow in a lot of different ways as I continue through my WNBA career. And, you know, from where it was when I started to where it's going to be when I finish, I hope it's a dramatic difference as far as, you know, the rights that the players are given. Obviously, we had a new CBA, collective bargaining agreement, which raised our salaries, gave us more benefits, helped people who want to become mothers or, you know, plan for that in the future, and just continue to give opportunities to the WNBA players, because, you know, before it wasn't always easy. But I think that, you know, we're just scratching the surface of where we need to go. And for me, it's continuing to fight to make sure that we're continually appreciated. And I think that, you know, people don't realize, and I don't know why they don't realize, but we're the best at what we do. We're the best women's basketball players in the world. We're the best women's basketball league in the world, and people need to recognize that. And I think that, you know, it goes beyond what the WNBA is doing, but what these other people are doing. I see these platforms, I don't know if you saw this on Instagram, where it's like ESPN and Bleacher Report and Sports Illustrated and all these things, they're not highlighting women's sports. And, you know, that's something that needs to continue to change. So I hope that as my career goes on, that focus is going to kind of switch, and women in sports are going to continue to get more attention going forward.
What advice would you give any young girl who's an athlete in any sport watching this today?
Advice that I would give to any young athlete or young girl is to continue to reach your dreams, you know, reach for your dreams. I think the sky's the limit. And I think especially now in 2021, it is a turning point. You know, women are getting more opportunities, but they're also not just being given them, they're taking them. So take your opportunity when you see it, and continue to, you know, realize your worth and go after what you want.
All right, last question. Former hooper to current hooper, GOAT. You could play any player, man, woman, retired, active, just you and them. Who are you taking and why?
If I could play any player one-on-one, I'm playing against Kai Moon. Because we just did this great panel, and I've heard a lot about what you did at Binghamton, and I think it would be a fun game.
I would like to have that matchup someday if it comes around, so I'll keep hope alive for that. But thank you so much for being here, for sitting down, taking the time to talk to me and everybody on behalf of Binghamton University. Thank you so much. Good luck with everything going forward, and it was an honor to sit down and talk to you today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.